What's cracking, everybody? How's it going? I do get a little spark of excitement as soon as the show gets started. It's the intro. The intro is fantastic. Welcome to Moment with Moschetti. I am your hostess with the mostest, Moschetti herself, your auntie, sister, cousin, best friend, always coming with the realness. As you can hear, I do not have 100% of my voice today, so y'all just gonna have to bear with me sounding a little bit like my brother. Um, but welcome to another episode of the podcast. Today we'll be talking about grief. Grief be like, and what grief be like. And we're just gonna talk a bit about what it's like to navigate a grief flare up. But before we get into that, we got to start off the show. We got to start off the show with some church announcements. I want to figure out every week, every episode. I say I'm gonna come up with a theme song for the church announcements, and every week I don't. But one of these weeks I'm gonna have one, and y'all gonna be like, "What?" Definitely, this week ain't the week for that because I can't barely even talk, let alone sing or create some. I'll create some instrument. We'll figure it out. Anyways, church announcements. Um, if you follow me, you will see that yesterday I participated in Black Arts Fest, and that was a grand old time. I always enjoy being with AMPM and rocking out on stage. And so if you were there, I appreciate you for being there. I appreciate the support. I appreciate those who are rocking out in the audience with us, helping us keep the energy up and all of that heat. That's part of the reason why I don't have a voice as it is out there singing. And we were also earlier in the afternoon part of Gospel in the Park. Gospel in the Park. And so we had a double feature, double whammy of singing outside in the heat, in the sun, having a good old time, praising the Lord. So I'm very appreciative of that. I have a lot of things coming up in the month of August, including, what is that, August 24th? The TDR Tone Deaf Radio Network will be hosting a poetry set. Words Mean Things, August 24th at was it Wildflower MKE. So come out and support. We definitely appreciate you coming through. Yours truly will be on the docket as on the marquee. I will be involved in the program, and so come out and support. If you follow me on any of my socials, you'll also see that I posted what's called the Moschetti event calendar for the month of August. I created a little infographic to help y'all and me keep track of everything that I have going on for the month. And so, if I got time and energy to put that together for you guys each month, so that you can keep track of all of the things that Moschetti is involved in, you can more easily see what I have going on. Because I actually get the question quite frequently, what's the next thing or what else you got going on? And between Praise Motivated and between doing poetry and the podcast and the poetry workshop that I host every second and fourth Friday at Paradise Social Lounge, I actually have quite a bit going on outside of my regular schedule. And I love for people to be involved in as much as what I have going on as possible. I understand that everybody can't be at everything, but I do ask that if anything in particular that I'm doing resonates with you, that you please come out and that you please support, whether you can support be it in person, support by sending donations when I am involved in things that require donations, such as I'll be a part of a poetry showcase on the 23rd, the Teachers Takeover, which is a school supply drive for teachers. That will help you keep track of what I have going on and also provide you an opportunity to support, whether near or far, the different things I got going on. Now, for me as an artist, it's very important to me that you guys are actually entertaining, you enjoy what I got going on. And so I put in a lot of effort to make sure that from one event to the next, you're not getting the exact same show. And so if you come to one thing, don't think that Moschetti and you've seen everything that Moschetti has to offer. Please be rest assured, if you come to something on one day and you come to something else on the next day, you're about to get a total different set, a total different opportunity to really see me flex. Of course, I'll be doing some of my favorites from show to show, but you're not just about to get the same 1-2 points. So feel free to definitely come on out and support many of the wonderful things I have going on. It's a very exciting life right now to be involved in so much artistry when, well, about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I was not really doing too much of any of this. So I'm very excited to constantly have the requests flooding in to have me participate in these different activities. And so I really appreciate being involved, and I just want to make sure that you guys get a good show and enjoy yourself whenever you see me. So that's that. So stay tuned, keep your eyes open for all of the things that Mo Skinny is involved in. All right. I'm gonna take a drink of water and then we're gonna get into the show because Lord have mercy. A lot of people get stuck on different levels of grief, and that's the biggest problem I see. Shonda Burke, so you are ready to jump into the topic for today. So yes, today we're talking about grief and what grief be like. Um, so I actually had a different topic um, on my heart for today. It was something completely different, but where I sit right now, my energy just wasn't feeling presenting that. Cause I've been down. I've been down. Um, if you know me for some time, if you follow my poetry, a good friend of mine passed away August 15th, 2015. And so the beginning of August typically is a little difficult for me. Um, just leading up to the anniversary of his passing. And I found myself this year feeling kind of numb concerning the situation. And so I decided to kind of pivot and talk about grief, talk about a grief flare up, and really how to navigate that. We'll be approaching year 9, and I've learned a lot of things about myself as navigating this year to year, not just with his death, but the death of my grandfather as well, which was in 2019. Which those things hit a little bit different from one another. My friend passed away quite suddenly, and my grandfather had been sick, and so my emotional reaction to the two are quite different. Um, and so I wanted to really share today about what a grief flare up is and how to navigate it, and sprinkle in a little bit of how I'm navigating the one that I'm kind of in the middle of right now. So I define a grief flare up as an instance in which grief manifests itself in a prominent way. So just like any other instance, we have any other medical condition. You may live with a medical condition chronically, but there are times in which it is more exacerbated, where you feel the symptoms more than other times, or where they come out of remission and you feel them fully. Um, Anybody who's lost someone kind of knows that you don't really get over it. You just kind of learn how to move forward in life. And there are days in which you don't really miss the person at all. You're not really thinking about it at all. You're just kind of navigating day to day. And then there can be instances, whether it be a moment or days or weeks, months, in which you find yourself really experiencing different emotions connected to grief, whether it be sorrow, whether it be anger, frustration, a variety of things you could feel concerning grief. And so a grief flare up is just an opportunity or a moment when you are experiencing things connected to your grief that is changing your mood, changing your behavior, changing your habits, changing your mental states. And so today, and is with as much voice as I can muster up, I want to talk about 3 things to help you navigate your grief flare up. Um, so the first thing that I wanted to point out today to help you navigate your grief flare up is that you actually have to acknowledge that you are experiencing a moment of grief. And just like many other mental health situations, it can kind of sneak up on you without you realizing it, especially if the grief is creeping in. Well, honestly, if it's creeping in any kind of way, but if it's creeping in like depression creeps in, you might not even realize that you are having a grief flare up until you are in the thick of it. But when you are in the thick of it, it's important that you acknowledge that that's what's going on. And by acknowledging it, you have an opportunity to understand where you are so that you can change things or you can navigate it more easily. Many times, try to act like we're okay. People ask you, how you doing? I'm fine. Or you don't seem like yourself today. Oh, everything's cool. Um, not acknowledging that you're actually going through something. And that is something that I preach about really when it comes to any of your mental health issues. You have to acknowledge where you are if you want to move yourself out of the space. You can't denial yourself out of your current situation. If anything, denial will make everything worse. And so when it comes to grief, first and foremost, you have to acknowledge that I am experiencing grief. It may not be anxiety, it may not be depression, it may not be I'm hungry, it may not be I'm tired, it may not be I'm manic, I'm excited. I might be running away from my feelings. I might be overcome by my feelings. So acknowledging that it is grief helps you pinpoint a little bit more about how you can be navigating away from it and through it. And some of the things that you can pay attention to in the acknowledgement of your grief and helping you recognize that it is grief is the changes of your behavior. Um, the difference between just like a regular bout of depression or a regular bout of mania or avoidance or anything that you might be experiencing, because there could be a plethora of things that you're experiencing in your grief. Um, One of the things that kind of separate a regular mental health episode and a grief flare up is what is that? What are those behaviors attached to? You know, are you having experiences that are connected to things that the person that you're missing filled? You know, are you extra lonely? Are you thinking about that person? Are you trying to find other people to kind of fill the roles that that person once filled in your life? You might be dealing with a grief episode. Are you trying to keep yourself preoccupied so that you're not thinking about the things that you're missing that they brought to your life? You might be dealing with a grief episode. Um, so watching your behaviors, not just those, not just the things that you're focused. Excuse me, because my brain. I told you I'm in a bit in the middle of a grief flare up myself. So if this is a little unorganized, life is a little foggy right now. And that for me is one of the behaviors that I had to acknowledge. I'm feeling a little numb right now. I can't really feel my happies or my sads all the way. But by acknowledging that, I'm like, wait, what's going on? Because like some people have been doing some stuff that would normally piss me off, and I do not care. And other things have been making me happy, and I do not care. Okay, there's been a shift in my behavior. Let me pin down on what's going on. And so for me, and this kind of leads into the next part, acknowledging that the shift is happened, and also acknowledging at what frequency it happened. We're coming up on the anniversary of a death. And by acknowledging that that date is coming up, it helped me realize that this isn't just an ebb and flow of my behavior. Maybe I don't just not care. Maybe I'm actually dealing with something. So anniversaries of a person's death can trigger a grief flare up. Anniversary of a person's birth can trigger a grief flare up. Anniversaries of anything in particular that you guys have shared, whether it be something that you did regularly, anniversary of you guys meeting, just anything that really reminds you of something that you did regularly can trigger your grief flare ups. And by acknowledging that those things exist in your life, you can more pinpoint what the cause of your current feelings are. And also your patterns and routines. I have a theory, and that people grieve at about the frequency in which they would see a person. So if I saw you every day, it's probably going to hurt every single day when you leave, maybe for a while. If I saw you once a week, I'll probably miss you about once a week. If I saw you about once a month goes by, maybe even two, I might start missing you a little bit more. And I have that theory just because there are different people who I have lost throughout life. And if I see them all the time, I miss them because they have become a daily part of my life. But if I haven't seen them very often, when I come back around to those moments in which I would have talked to them by now or I would have seen them by now, the emptiness sets in. And so, acknowledging the patterns in which you would have interacted with the person, if you would have seen them by now, if you would have interacted with them by now, and you haven't, the grief might be setting in on your patterns. And now I'm talking grief and particularly pertaining to death, but you can apply some of this to loss of relationship in general. Hits a little bit different when the person is still alive because you can call them even if it's a bad idea. But if it applies, then it applies, because sometimes we miss people at the frequency in which we spoke to them, and it's not a good idea for us to talk to them. And if we simply acknowledge that that is a that we are experiencing a grief flare up and we really don't need to talk to them, then maybe you can more effectively move through that moment in which you are experiencing a flare up of loss, a flare up of separation, a flare up of loneliness and sadness, and get through that, because you know good and well you're not supposed to talk to them. But when it comes to us who have lost people who are no longer living, we have no choice but to navigate that moment. Now, how well we navigate that moment depends on how well we take care of ourselves as we're making our way through that moment. But if we remain in denial that we are having that experience, then it'll be much more difficult for us to take care of ourselves through that experience. And we can find ourselves falling prey to whatever the emotion is at the moment. For those who fall into depression and let the heaviness of life take over, you can extend the length and the depth of your depressive episode by not acknowledging the source of it and by not acknowledging the things that you could be doing to come out of it. For those of us who resort to things of avoidance, whether we become workaholics to not think about what we're doing, or we participate in drugs and alcohol as a way of avoidance, we can find ourselves burning ourselves out, overdosing on our substances. And you don't have to die to be overdosing on your substances. You can just be in such a cloud that you are no longer able to participate in the other things that are taking place in your life. We could be doing that to the point where it becomes a severe detriment to ourselves. When we're not taking care of ourselves. I guess let me pop on over to the comments, because y'all are saying hi. Hey, Naomi. I am not feeling better, but I am navigating my way through, and I appreciate you for sending me some love. What's up, Raymond? That's one of my AMPM brothers, fantastic singers, fantastic soul. I appreciate you guys for watching today and hanging out with me as I talk about grief. Let me get some more water before we continue on, because Lord have mercy, look at that. I be singing hard, and I don't usually lose my voice after all that singing, but this weekend was a different kind of something. All right. So after you acknowledge that you are in grief and what your grief is doing to you, you need to give yourself grace. You need to give yourself grace. You need to give yourself permission to be sad and room to get better. You need to not beat up on yourself for how you're feeling and for why you're feeling that way. And grief can be a tricky thing, because I've known people to be grieving loved ones 10, 20, 30 years after their passing. And it may seem like, oh my goodness, this person has been gone so long, I should be used to this. But if a grief flare up is happening and you happen to miss them, give yourself grace. Allow yourself to emote. Make room for your true feelings if they're true to you. That doesn't mean succumb to them all the way. Well, that means don't beat up on yourself because you have emotions. Don't beat up on yourself because you have loved and now you have lost. Don't beat up on yourself for the things that you were able to accomplish with those people and the things that you weren't able to accomplish with those people in their lives. Make room for your emotions. Make room for you. and allow yourself to feel how you feel without being abusive to yourself. Because being abusive to yourself doesn't help the scenario at all. As a matter of fact, it makes it worse. Crying about how you shouldn't feel this way and then trying to back your way out of it instead of allowing yourself to go through it will just make the next grief flare up worse. Will make the current grief flare up worse. So giving yourself grace takes the pressure off of what you think you should be doing at the moment. Giving yourself grace allows you to move through life smoother without high expectations of how you should be operating. So if you are normally functional, if you normally get a lot of stuff done, if you're normally high energy or bubbly, you're just not that right now. Sometimes you need to give yourself grace and allow yourself to not be that right now. Because you're going to wear yourself out trying to be something that you can't be at the moment. People been fussing at me all day today. What's wrong with you? This is not the person I know. Yeah, I know. You be all right. I'm not being rude. I'm not being mean. I'm just honoring the way that I genuinely feel in the moment, and I'm not forcing myself to be more than what I am. And that is giving myself grace to have the experience that I'm having, knowing that it won't last forever, knowing that I don't live in this space, knowing that I don't desire to live in this emotional space, but allowing it to exist because it exists, not because I'm trying to exacerbate it, not because I'm trying to elicit any particular sympathy, but because it is my true experience. And I'm allowing my true experience to be. Give myself grace. Um, I had another thought, but it left, so I'm gonna let it go. Give myself grace. And then give others grace. That is my third point for today for navigating your grief flare up. While you are giving yourself grace, while you are acknowledging how you might feel honoring, because that's all I got right now, give other people grace. You the one with the problem right now. And if other people are getting on your nerves because they are doing things that normally don't bother you, give them grace. They are being themselves. They are being the same selves that they always are. You are just taking it too personally. Step back and allow the people to be how they are. If other people are around you and they are enjoying life and they are happy and they are bubbly and they're having experiences that you are struggling to exist in proximity of because you can't experience joy, give them people grace. They are not obligated to be down in the dumps because you are. They're not obligated to spend all their time with you because you lonely. They're not obligated to stop their lives because yours is not in the greatest state of joy. Give other people grace to be the people that they are while you're giving yourself grace to be the person that you are. Because forcing yourself or forcing other people to behave outside of their natural aptitude is really just you trying to control the situation so that you don't feel what you're feeling. And that's not fair. That's not fair to you. That's not fair to anybody else around you. What Tab say? Have a good day, and if you are not having a good day, don't you dare go messing anybody else's up. This is where that applies. Um, it's unfair for you to go around and destroy everybody else's day because you're bad. You're feeling down. You wouldn't want anybody doing that to you. But give yourself grace to feel how you feel. But that doesn't mean you have to ruin everybody else's experience. That doesn't mean that you have to drag them down. That doesn't mean you have to be woe is me. But if people desire to share space with you, to hear your story, to love on you through your sorrow, through your grief, if people are telling you calm down because you're doing too much trying to avoid your feelings, Acknowledge all of that. Take that in. Accept that. Give them people grace. If they want to go out of their way to be there for you, let them. That's the people's choice to love on you. Let them. Even if you don't want it, take some. Because grief is a tricky thing. Sometimes it'll hit you by a random song or a random sound or random smell or something that you didn't even expect would cause your grief to flare up. But it triggers a memory of a person who you no longer have access to. And if you spin in spiral, try to avoid, try to repress, try to disengage from your emotions, you dishonor yourself, but you also dishonor the memory of the person that you miss. Their memories deserve honor. They deserve honor. It is okay to be sad that you miss somebody. Like, if you ever cared, you should miss them when they're gone. It's just the truth of loss. It's the truth of grief. If you don't care that somebody is gone out of your life forever, you never cared. Or you're lying. And being in denial about your sorrow can and will blow up in your face in the long term. Because when it comes out, ain't no telling how it's going to come out. And we can work our way through, we can pour ourselves into other things, whether it be substances, whether it be work, whether it be, other people that you need, your family that you need to love on. You can pour yourself into other stuff all day long. But at the end of the day, when your grief surfaces, you are going to have to acknowledge it and you're going to have to go through your healing process layer by layer by layer by layer. And if you don't, it can overcome you. Your emotions can choose to take charge. And when your emotions choose to take charge because you haven't dealt with them, you're not going to have as much control of your behavior as you could have if you would have allowed these things to process in the time that they desired to be processed. There is a time for joy, there's a time for sorrow, there's a time for grief, there's a time for joy, there's a time for everything. And allowing yourself the time to process what you need to process in the time that it needs to process will allow you to navigate everything, all the lessons in life that are supposed to come to you in the order in which they are supposed to come. If you backlog these things, you don't just get to skip it because you're ignoring it. It will roll over. Y'all remember rollover minutes? It will roll over to the next experience, and you never know what you're missing out on in your learning process and your growing process. You never know if there's somebody behind you that needs to learn from your grief. You never know if it's you behind you that needs to learn from your grief. Like I said, like the three biggest people I've lost in my life will be my grandmother passed away when I was 5. I can say I didn't really grieve that in a way that I understood because I was 5. At this point in my life, she's just been gone. I grieve it differently because I understand now those pieces of motherhood and womanhood that I missed out on because she was not here to teach my mother, who wasn't here to teach me. Well, my mom's here, but she wasn't here to teach my mother, and those lessons didn't get passed down to me. And so grief looks a little bit different in pertaining to her because I just acknowledge every once in a while that when there are things that could have come from her to me that I miss. And sometimes I grieve her, and then I learn those things and move on. But my friend and my grandfather were different experiences. I lost my friend. I never felt a loss quite like that before. It was real intense grief. I fell into an ugly depression after that for a long time. And pulling myself out of that took a while because I didn't even really realize what I was experiencing. So by the time my grandfather passed away, I knew what grief could look like. I knew how ugly and how dark it could get, and I knew the importance of at least taking care of my basic needs through the process. I knew the importance of I still need to get up and shower. I need to feed myself but not overeat. I need to navigate certain things so that my body won't fall into decay. I didn't know what it would do to my mind because I experienced those instances of grief in very different ways. I lost my friend, I experienced it very physically. I lost my grandfather, I experienced it very mentally. But I took both experiences and I learned from them and I grew from them and I treat myself differently as I go through all different type of mental health things. I take care of myself differently because of those losses. And I have an appreciation for life differently because of those losses. I have appreciation for loss differently because of those losses. Um, and I allow myself to feel what I feel because of those losses. And I give myself grace. I had no choice but to give myself grace when it came to those losses. When I lost my friend, it was very physical. Like I said, the depression was very physical. I couldn't move very much. When I lost my grandfather, the grief was very mental. I couldn't think very well. Like I literally remember being in a meeting at work and telling the people, you want me to do lots of things, and I can't plan anything that is further than 3 days out. And I remember them telling them this, and I know that they did not believe me, but I did know that it was all I had. I literally like couldn't plan anything further than 3 days out. Like that's all I had. I could not. The executives were not functioning. So it took a toll on me mentally, really, really, really bad. And I had no choice but to give myself grace because you want me to do something 5 days from now. I can't tell you what 5 days from now looks like. I can't. You can want me to. I cannot. So what you want me to do? I can stress about it. I can cry about it. I can fuss about it. I can cuss about it, or I can continue to take care of myself until I am back in a space where I can plan ahead. Well, now I said at the top of the show, I gave y'all a calendar about my whole month of events. Clearly, I could plan more than 3 days out in advance now, but then I couldn't, and I could beat myself up about the state I'm in, or I can graciously do what I can. I can give you what I have, and you can work with me in return. I can get mad at you for helping me or not helping me, or I can take what you got and we can rock with it. I had to learn a lot about myself, and when I have grief flare ups, I still have to learn about myself. Like I said, now I feel numb. My happies ain't as happy as I need them to be, and my sads ain't as sad as they could be. Um, and sometimes that's okay, and sometimes not. I'd rather not be on either extreme because that sad extreme is ugly. I don't want to be there. And that up extreme usually is coupled with avoidance. I don't want to be there either because the crash from that is ugly. So where I am is just where I am. And I know it'll pass. And I'm okay with that. But at least acknowledging where I am right now is informing some of the behaviors that I have going on. And, I told y'all before when I did my weight loss episode that I lost a lot of weight because I stopped smoking a bunch of weed. I got more active and I quit eating as much. And I'm like, why I got the munchies? Like I've been smoking. I ain't been smoking. What's going on? Well, I'm feeling numb. And munching on something feels like something. Oh, I'm having a grief flare up. Being in the kitchen is sensation seeking in a way that is not as dangerous as or destructive as other sensation seeking that I have dealt with in the past that I will not be sharing at this moment. But now that I know that, I'm like, okay, well, I can give myself grace in the way of eating things that are healthier if I'm gonna be back and forth to the kitchen all day long. I can give myself grace by just being okay with whatever little 3, 4, 5 pounds I might gain in the process of this grief flare up. It's all right. All my clothes too big anyways. I can give myself grace when I want to crack jokes that it's okay because hey, at least I'm laughing a little bit, even if it's at my own experience. Everybody will be all right. But acknowledging where you are, accepting where you are, and why you're there will help inform you of what you can do right now. Giving yourself grace to do what you need to do, how you need to do it. Whether you're on top of the world and you got all the energy to do everything, or you're at the bottom of the pit and you can only take care of your basic needs and barely that, will help you navigate through. And giving other people around you grace because they are allowed to live their lives to the fullest. And they are allowed to do stuff that irritates you and you do not have to take all your anger out on them. Will help really not just you, but everybody who is around you live a little bit better. And I think that is about all I got for y'all today. Because to be honest, I don't even want to talk about this for a whole hour. It's sad. But I hope that wherever you are in your grief process, whether you are in the middle of a grief flare up or this is the first time you've ever heard of such a concept, that what I've had to say today will help get you through it just a little bit easier. And maybe it helped me get through it easier, or maybe it didn't. I don't know. We had to pod today though. And I barely have a voice. So I'm gonna give myself grace there too. And not run all the way out what little I have left. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna pray out and we're gonna get up out the studio, all right? Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for this day. I thank you for this time. I thank you for this connection. And I ask you to be with me, be with my heart, be with my mind, be with those who are under the sound of my voice. I ask that you come to us in the vein of healing, that our hearts be whole, that our minds be clear, and our spirits be full of all the things that we need in order to live a wonderful and brilliant life. I ask that you be with me on this day. I ask that you be with my followers on this day, and that you extend your arms of love and protection and guidance around us. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, who work through me. Thank God and amen. I appreciate y'all for being here with me today. For the people who have been watching all the way through, I see you. For those who watch on the replay, I appreciate you. I appreciate your acknowledgement and your encouragement. And yeah, if you support the show, if you believe in what I got going on here, feel free to support by liking, commenting, sharing, sending the pod to those who you think will benefit from this message. And of course, if you ever want to provide any financial appreciation for the time spent here today, you can hit my Cash App Moschetti. Buy me a coffee, buy me a car, whatever's in your wallet, whatever's in your heart. I appreciate it because this is a labor of love that I extend from my life to help you with yours. So with that being said, I thank you for spending a moment with me. Take care of yourself. Take care of those who love you and allow yourself to be loved. All right. Take me out, Tone.